Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. These are my 2023 reflections upon applying this information he so graciously shared in his book, originally published in 1936. So I believe it's important to encourage ideas that stimulate experiencing the kind of prosperity that you desire. By simply encouraging ideas of prosperity, we actually automatically transform inside and reveal our prosperity outside. It is through these ideas, prosperity ideas, that we encourage in our minds, that reform us to our ideal concept of self. Now, I say reform because, from my experience, riches and prosperity ideas, which we're going to further encourage today, were seemingly not as apparent in earlier states of my life. Although occasionally, there were a few that I would meet that would say the same things, although perhaps they would say it differently, yet nevertheless, proving in equation that the light is always there to encourage your prosperity. No matter where you are in life, as he states, it is perfectly logical to assume that a wise and competent creator would provide for the needs of all creatures in their various stages of growth. The supply would be given as required, and as the necessary effort for its appropriation was made by the creature. Now, it's this idea that we want to meditate upon regularly. As we've been discussing, creation is complete, and you can see it all in your imagination. Whatever you desire to accept is already yours, and it's revealed by faith. Now, faith, which is loyalty to the unseen reality, knowing and trusting that it already exists, perhaps beyond what is visible via the five senses. Now, everything that we see or experience via the five senses was once sourced in imagination. The technologies, the life experience, the different forms of prosperity that we see all around us in our lives was first sourced from within. It already existed within. Now, this is something that within myself I have encouraged repeatedly until it became obvious that desires are fulfilled in imagination and are expressed accordingly via the ways of the subconscious mind. Students of the workings of the subconscious mind realize that the vision of what we desire is first accepted as an established fact in mind. Reality is inside, and the outer is an expression, or we could say unfoldment, of that reality. And we observe as body seems to move effortlessly and automatically, and the world seems to synchronize automatically to reveal the vision, all by walking in faith and not by sight. This indicates that although one's outer world may seem to suggest the opposite of what one has accepted as true in imagination, the reality is that the outer is actually rearranging to reflect the vision. Now, so much suffering ceases upon accepting this truth, as a person ceases to look for visible causes and acknowledges that the work is done. Creation is complete and everything happens. You simply accept what is already yours and experience it. To emphasize, he says, the farmer may seem to get his supply from the seeds he plants, but he would never plant a seed unless he had faith in its innate capacity to increase, and that seed would never multiply without the quickening life of spirit. Thus we see that all increase of substance depends on the quickening life of spirit, and this fact gives us the key to mental processes that, when used spiritually, will greatly increase and at the same time simplify our appropriation of that inexhaustible substance which creative mind has so generously provided. Now, when I started my IT business in 2009, which I decided to transition away from in 2013, having built it to success. I acknowledge that it was by walking with faith that made it all happen. Unnecessary suffering that was experienced in between those years were actually opportunities to release identification to certain lack-based beliefs in mind. For example, when I committed to leaving my corporate job, it seemed that some around me were doubting me, which was a source of suffering for me. Now, they weren't the source, but rather how I related to what they were saying. They were messengers that were only revealing what I whispered in secret, my own beliefs. So I released those beliefs from my past and moved on, as faith is higher than doubt. And so now, upon experience, if the five senses confirm it, then fine. If the five senses do not confirm it, then fine. I have no preference if it does or it doesn't. I choose to walk by faith and loyalty to my unseen reality, and will remain so until that which I imagine, which is what occurred inside, is perfectly externalized as life experience. As he says, the spiritual substance from which comes all visible wealth is never depleted. It is right with you all the time and responds to your faith. It is not affected by ignorant talk of hard times, though we may be affected because our thoughts and words govern our demonstration. The unfailing resource is always ready to give. It has no choice in the matter, it must give, for that's its nature. So now, as we discuss wealth and prosperity, it's important to acknowledge that this is an individualized meaning. As he says, the spiritual substance from which comes all visible wealth is never depleted. What you consider wealth and prosperity may differ from another, while, however, each has access to prosperity, and I encourage each to discover within themselves what prosperity means to them. One may consider financial, spiritual, physical, and family expressions as a form of prosperity. For one, it could mean a certain amount of income. For another, it could mean not considering a certain amount of income, but rather knowing that all their needs are met some way, somehow. Another may consider rich family life as prosperous, while another might consider their art as prosperity. One way is not greater or better than another. And how could it be if creation is complete and the spiritual substance is infinite? So it's really about what you want. Now, many know that I was offered a partnership deal with a large IT service provider in 2012 with an enormous amount of earning potential. However, it was not where my heart was, and I wanted to go where my heart wanted to go so I can experience prosperity in other areas of my life, which then interestingly harmoniously increased the financial prosperity even further. This to me is true love. And to emphasize the point, he says it wonderfully. Spiritual discernment reveals that we are now in the dawn of a new era, that the old methods of supply and support are fast passing away, and that new methods are waiting to be brought forth. In the coming, commerce will not be a slave to money. Humanity's daily needs will be met in ways that are not now thought practical. We shall serve for the joy of serving, and prosperity will flow to us and through us in streams of plenty. So yes, you can really do what you love. Earn a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, and encourage others to find their own style of prosperity. As a matter of fact, this is one of my favorite kinds of conversations, encouraging each person's prosperity. I see prosperity as art. Life is art, as we are created in the image of the Creator to be creators, although we are more revealers as creation is complete. And what we reveal in prosperity is also a source of inspiration for others to also do the same. So what's your kind of prosperity? There's no shame, judgment, or condemnation. There never was. Those are only beliefs that one perhaps had identified with in their past. Perhaps they operated from that premise, creating a seeming disharmony between heart and mind. The truth is, there's no disharmony between heart and mind unless one persists stubbornly in self-condemnation, lack-based beliefs. Release them and allow the heart and mind to soar together to experience the prosperity you love. As he says, in laying hold of substance in the mind and bringing it into manifestation, we play a most important part. We do it according to our decree. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. We're always decreeing, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. And with every thought and word, we are increasing or diminishing the resulting manifestation conforms to our thought. So let's zone in on this part here. We are always decreeing, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. The unconscious part here are the automatic beliefs we run from. Could be, for one, lack-based beliefs in terms of themselves, others, prosperity, and outer aspects of their lives. For example, one may desire prosperity, then they could shame themselves and say they don't deserve it, or it belongs to another person, or the environment where they look around seems to deny. And by the way, the seeming to deny are their own beliefs in relation to the environment. They then may unconsciously perhaps decree that it is not for them and thus experience it as a reflection called life experience. As discussed, the power of this book is your commitment to walk by faith, loyalty to the unseen reality, accepting the vision as yours and living from it till it is perfectly externalized as you had imagined. So to contribute, he has this chapter called Overcoming the Thought of Lack. You see, for thousands of years, the ancients shared with us over and over again in many of the ancient texts the power of thought and how one thought can change everything. From my experience, one thought of starting my business or moving to another country, and I've lived in many countries, through the piercing light of that one single thought, everything changed. And so I would like to further encourage this inherent ability within you as well. One single thought can change every last detail of your life, no matter what the state of your life is now. And so now if I have an idea and I like it, provided that I like it, if I don't, I let it pass. Perhaps it's for someone else to enjoy. If I like it, I commit to it and move on with my life. No emotional turmoil, half-stepping behaviors, or overthinking. Commit and done. Some way, somehow, that thought of prosperity will manifest. This is what the ancients have been sharing with us. Walking by faith and not sight. He says, the superconscious mind within you discriminates among the kinds of food you assimilate, controls your digestion, your breathing, and the beating of your heart. It doeth all things well, and it will help you do this important work of directing you in the thoughts you should hold and the ones you should cast out. You will find that you can gradually turn over more and more of your affairs to its perfect discrimination. Nothing is too great for it to accomplish, nor is anything too trivial for it to handle with perfection and dispatch. This mind of the Spirit will guide you in perfect ways, even in the minute details of your life, if you will let it do so. But you must will to do its will and trust it in all your ways. So we see then, inside, we always know what we want, and we also know how to get there. No confusion. Listen to yourself and trust yourself. It's that simple. Everything is done for you. And so what about unnecessary suffering then? Well, the question is, are we operating from our vision, or are we allowing ourselves to be swayed by the beliefs of ourselves, others, and the world, which we could call lack of prosperity beliefs, to create this illusion of unnecessary suffering on the journey? One may look around and ask others how to think. They perhaps want others to do the thinking for them rather than allowing their own intuition to play upon what others are saying, the books they're reading from, etc. Doing this, they will surely learn how to think for themselves and think accurately in terms of their prosperity. And as a result, they will dissolve all those beliefs that they have unconsciously identified with, lack-based beliefs. What can also be very helpful is applying the 7-Day Mental Diet by Emmett Fox. I'll link in the description to our recent discussion on this book. So think how you want to think. Why wouldn't you? This is your life, and you're blessed with the two gifts, speech and mind, to access and experience the prosperity that you desire. As he says, we must carefully choose what thoughts we are going to lose in the mind and what thoughts we are going to bind, for they will come into manifestation in our affairs. We must lose all thoughts of lack and inefficiency in the mind and let them go. See the abundance of all good things prepared for you and for all of us from the foundation of the world. We live in a very sea of inexhaustible substance, ready to come into manifestation when molded by our thought. So it's really that simple. If a person has a lack-based thought in their mind in relation to the prosperity they desire, let it pass. Don't identify with it. If someone seems to show up and seems to cause them to doubt, let it be. As you no longer identify with those lack thoughts, you'll see, from my experience as well, people no longer seem to show up to reveal your doubts because you no longer identify with them. As a matter of fact, you may notice, as I do, many people showing up to encourage your prosperity as you encourage theirs, and at times, without even words, you'll feel it. You'll feel prosperity around them. And that's because you feel it within yourself. Your prosperity now. You have planted prosperity ideas in your mind, nurtured and cultivated them to such a degree that you live as far as your eye can see in the prosperity that was always yours. As he says, true riches and real prosperity are in the understanding that there is an omnipotent substance from which all things come, and that by the action of our mind, we can unify ourselves with that substance so that the manifestation that comes from it will be in line with our desires and needs. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I access now the infinite riches and prosperity in all areas of my life within me. I accept what I love and desire now as I allow everything to unfold automatically, effortlessly, and naturally to further acknowledge that I am prosperous now. I listen to my inner voice that guides me to all prosperity and well-being as I inspire others to do the same in mutual harmony and love. Everything I touch turns to gold as my mind is gold, symbolically externalizing as prosperity in all areas of my life to my exact liking and style. I am aware that everything is done for me as I accept that all the prosperity I desire is already mine, and I'm pleasantly surprised each day as more prosperity is revealed during my walk of faith through life. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.